Oh, okay. Hello, everybody catching the broadcast. Probably like, what was that all about? All right. Okay, so tonight I'm going to be starting with Leviticus. I'm not going to give you the title just yet. I'm going to do this first. So in Leviticus it says, "Sanctify yourselves therefore and be ye holy. For I am the Lord your God, and you shall keep my statutes," orders, right? Laws. We talked about that before. "And do them. I am the Lord which sanctify you. For everyone that cursed his father or his mother shall be surely put to death. He hath cursed his father or his mother, his blood shall be upon him. And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and adulteress, shall surely be put to death." And you're probably like, what? All right, my title is "A Line in the Sand." All right, and you know what the common vernacular about a line in the sand is, right? You know, cross that line, we're going to fight. Right, you know, so Saddam tried that one time. Remember, he drew a line in the Middle East and said, "You cross that and we're going to fight." Yeah, we fought. He had the fourth largest army in the world. 2 weeks later, he had the fourth largest army inside Iraq. We crossed the line. He lost.
He was a bovine scatologist.
Yeah, exactly. So crossing God's line can be dangerous too.
Amen.
Because we brought weaponry to bear on that guy that he had no idea. You know, he was still fighting a 1950s, 1960s war between Iraq and Iran. They were going at it for over 10 years. But they were basically using fairly equal machinery, and all of it was old. He had no idea what had advanced and how good our leadership was. And Storm and Norman and the rest of the crew just steamrolled right through them. Sometimes that happens to us too. We get out of line. So I'm going to go to Ezekiel. Let's take a look at that. Where is that line? "Therefore thus says the Lord God, because thou hast forgotten me and cast me behind thy back, therefore bear thou also thy lewdness and thy whoredoms. The Lord said more unto me, Son of man, wilt thou judge Aholah and Aholibah? Yea, declare unto them their abominations. They have committed adultery, blood is in their hands, and with their idols have they committed adultery, and have also caused their sons, whom they bear to me, to pass for them through the fire to devour them. Moreover this they have done to me, they have defiled my sanctuary in the same day, and have profaned my Sabbaths." So he calls us the bride, right? He's the bridegroom.
Yes.
So when he's referring to adultery, he's not always referring just to the physical action, but that we've turned away from following what he's commanding. I mean, here he's beating these guys up because he's talking about Moloch and Baal, right? He's saying that you actually burned your children alive to sacrifice to this heathen god who had no hands, no feet, no eyes, couldn't speak, couldn't walk. Remember that story where the big statue kept falling over, and they would push it back up again, and then it would fall back over again? Or when the prophet and the 450 of Baal, and they were calling for him to show up, and the prophet's like, "Peradventure your man is asleep or on vacation perhaps." And he was mocking them, right? Because nothing happened. They were out there all day. They were whooping themselves and cutting and bloodletting and burning, and absolutely nothing happened. He said, maybe he's away on vacation. He says, "Okay, my turn. I'll call my God." And a nuclear weapon came down from heaven. Fire burned up everything. It says that it burned the altar, it burned what was laid on the altar, burned all the wood, all the water, melted the sand, just the whole thing just was totally consumed. And if you remember that, before that he said just keep pouring on more and more water. right? Not only did they have the trench filled, but they just inundated this thing as much as they could. It was just all mud. You know, it's like, I'm going to make this as wet as possible so that the only way you're going to believe this is when it happens. Boom! And it was all gone. It said the flame licked up all the water. Gone completely. So he's talking about in several different parables here. Not only, like I said, just the... yeah. We got kids, so... When they slayed their children to their idols, then came the same day into my sanctuary to profane it, and lo, thus they have done in the midst of my house. And furthermore, that ye have sent for men to come from far, unto whom a messenger was sent, and lo, they came, for whom thou didst wash thyself, painted thy eyes, and decked thyself with ornaments, and sattest upon a stately bed, and a table prepared before it, whereupon thou hast set my incense and my oil. So he's saying that you took out, pulled all your fancy clothes, and dressed up like a whore, and took my sacred stuff, my oil, and put it on your dirty table, and said, I'm gonna, well, you get it, have a man come in, and proceeds from there. So I would venture to say, probably safely to assume, that God was very upset at this particular point. Let me go a little further with that. Let's go see what Mark had to say. And when he was gone forth into the way, there came one running and kneeled to him and asked him, Good master, what shall I do that I may inherit eternal life? Jesus said unto him, Why callest thou me good? There is none good, but one, that is God. Thou knowest the commandments. Do not commit adultery. Do not kill. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. Lie. Defraud not. Don't cheat. Honor thy father and thy mother. And he answered, said unto him, Master, all these things have I observed from my youth. Thinking that he's all, look at me, I'm so righteous. Jesus, beholding him, loved him. Wow. Maybe it wasn't completely fake righteousness, huh? Jesus, beholding him, loved him. But there's still a flaw. And said unto him, One thing thou lackest. Go thy way, sell whatsoever thou hast, give to the poor, thou shalt have treasure in heaven. Come, take up the cross, and follow me. Don't commit adultery, don't kill, don't steal, don't lie, don't cheat, honor thy father and mother. He did everything and couldn't get past that one last hurdle. Right? If this was a race, he'd be on the 499th lap out of 500 and sees the checkered flag getting ready to wave, and his engine blows and the car coasts to a stop 30 yards before he crosses the finish line. He was almost there, wasn't he? Said you only lack one thing. One. But it was the one he couldn't let go. It says that. It says he went away sad. And he was sad at that saying and went away grieved, for he had great possession, wealth,
Didn't want to give him up.
power. He was a man of influence. He may not have been very old, but people would give him the good seat, right? He would get the best meal. He would get salutations in the yard and in the town center. Other people would come to him for advice. Respected man. One thing that lacked. And Jesus looked round about and said to his disciples, How hardly shall they that have riches enter to the kingdom of God? And he went on from there. In John, in 8, it's recorded, Jesus went unto the Mount of Olives, and early in the morning he came again into the temple, and all the people came unto him, and he sat down and taught them. And the scribes and Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery. Okay, so this time we're talking about it literally. And when they had set her in the midst, they say unto her, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. What sayest thou? This they said, tempting him, that they might have something to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground as though he heard them not. He's drawing a line in the sand. This is not biblical, and I think I've said this before. I believe he was writing the men's names that were visiting this woman. I think he was ratting them all. That's my personal belief. It never says what he was doing. He could have been doodling Mickey Mouse for all we know. He already knew what he was going to do. It's not like he didn't hear them. He'd already heard this conversation played out 1 billion years before it happened. He's the lamb slain before the foundation of the world. He's not surprised. So what was he writing and why? I think he was writing their names down. My personal opinion. Anyway, said that he was writing as though he heard them not. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, he that's without sin among you, go ahead, have a go at it. Let him first cast a stone at her. Again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. I think he was still writing more names. And wouldn't it have been interesting if any of those were pulled up and said, well, your name's in his little sandbox over there. Well, maybe you need to be stoned too. What happened to the guy that got caught?
Right now.
They wanted to kill her.
Yeah.
Why did he get a free pass?
Right.
Was he a Pharisee? Was he rich? Probably. We all know how that goes. Equal justice under the law until you have a stack of cash this big. And then it's your justice under the law. And he wrote on the ground again. And they which heard it, being convicted by their own consciences, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even to the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. Jesus lifted up himself and saw none but the woman. He said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers? Has no man condemned thee? No man, Lord. No man at all. And Jesus said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go, and sin no more. And spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. Now, this part is kind of interesting. I never actually set all three of these Gospels next to each other and compared them. And I'm actually kind of surprised at myself that I've never done that. This is kind of interesting. We're going to look at the same story 3 times from 3 different points. Mark said, And being in Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at meat, there came a woman having an alabaster box of ointment of spikenard, very precious. She brake the box and poured it on his head. Luke 7:36 says the same beginning. One of the Pharisees desired him, that he would eat with him, and he went to the Pharisee's house and sat down to meat. So we had a Pharisee that was a leper? Weird. So he would have been cast out too, would he not?
Yeah.
He was unclean. The law was the law.
That's right. That's right.
So, I'm believing that somewhere along the way, Jesus and this guy crossed paths already. He wasn't unknown. He was cured and is now back, such as it is, in his job. Because we know what he thought about the Pharisees, but be that as it is. So, continuing with Mark's story, and there were some that had indignation within themselves and said, Why was this waste of the ointment made? For it might have been sold for more than 300 pence. Fair decent amount of money there. It's $3 or £3 sterling in British speak. And had been given to the poor, and they murmured against her. Jesus said, let her alone. Why trouble ye her? She hath wrought a good work on me. For ye have the poor with you always, and whensoever ye will, ye may do them good. But me ye have not always. She hath done what she could. She is come aforehand to anoint my body to the burying. Verily I say to you, whosoever this gospel shall be preached throughout the whole world, this also that she hath done shall be spoken of for a memorial of her. So, like I said, we started with Luke, so I laid them next to each other earlier when I was doing this. It was interesting. And behold, a woman in the city who was a sinner, when she knew that Jesus sat at meat in the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster box of ointment. So those two agree. And stood at his feet behind him. See, now it gets a little more involved. And began to wash his feet with tears, and did wipe them with the hairs of her head, and kissed his feet, and anointed them with the ointment. And the Pharisee which had bidden him saw it. He spake within himself, saying, this man, if he were a prophet, would have known who and what manner of woman this is that toucheth him, for she is a sinner. And then we get to John's version. And Jesus, 6 days before the Passover, came to Bethany. So where was Mary from? Also from Bethany. Here's where it got interesting. I had never crossed them over like that and actually sat down and looked at it. Came to Bethany where Lazarus was, which had been dead, whom he raised from the dead. So these are a little bit out of order chronologically, but you know, of course, that this was written after the fact when the apostles were writing their notes. So it didn't always occur exactly in the order that it happened, but yet we do know that these events are historic. There they made him a supper, and Martha served, but Lazarus was one of them that sat at the table with him. Then took Mary a pound of ointment of spikenard, a pound. That's some expensive stuff. So a pound, yeah, that was big money.
Yes, sir.
A pound of ointment of spikenard, very costly, and anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the odor of the ointment. And said, one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, which should betray him. So now we're seeing that multiple people were thinking the very same thing. The other guy said, hey, if he were really a prophet, he would know who this woman is. She's dirty. And yet, you're going to let her paw all over you?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. And then, of course, Judas, being the... Yeah.
Upstanding person he was.
Oh, yes. Very upstanding citizen. We'll go with that. Keep it clean. Which should betray him. Why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? This he said, not that he cared any for the poor, but because he was a thief and had the bag, which means he was the treasurer. He was carrying the gold or silver or whatever it was that they had, and bear what was put therein. So John was on to him. He wasn't fooling everybody all the time, was he? And said, Jesus, let her alone. Against the day of my burying, how she kept this. For the poor always ye have with you, but me ye have not always. So now we're actually backing up from John 12 to John 11. And a certain man was sick, named Lazarus, of Bethany, same town. So I've heard people arguing, oh, well, the woman that was doing that wasn't Mary. Where's your proof?
Exactly.
Okay, well, it's not 100% solid, but it's very circumstantial, as what a police detective would say. Same town, friend of Lazarus, who was raised from the dead, was a hooker. Right? So he's like, if you knew who this was, you'd be touching all over him. And if this is just some random woman, why in heaven's name is she going to take a pound of the most expensive stuff on the planet and bust it open? What would her reasoning be? Right? Think about it logically. That's a whole lot of money. That's like me randomly walking up to a guy and saying, I'm going to give you my next paycheck. Okay.
I think you're
Why?
something to say about that.
Yeah, probably.
She loved it.
And, you know, he's going to be like, okay, there's a catch here somewhere, right? I'm sure there has to be. You don't know me, I don't know you. And you're going to give me your paycheck. Why? What's going on? Is your camera hiding behind the corner of the building? Is this, you know, candy camera? You playing with me here? Is this going to end up on YouTube as a joke? Am I getting Instagram punked? Those would be valid questions, wouldn't they? There was a relationship here. There was a knowledge. She didn't do that randomly. That's big money stuff. But what did he do for her? He saved her from a very brutal, very painful death, didn't he?
Sure did.
So I would say this is a small price for getting out of that. And obviously she thought the same. So, right, the certain man was sick, named Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary, and her sister Martha. And then he says, it was that Mary which anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. So did this happen twice?
No.
I would say most likely not, because the details are too close. So we have a solid link here that it's Mary. Therefore his sisters sent unto him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. When Jesus heard that, he said, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. Do you think that was returned?
Absolutely.
Not only was he a good man, we know, but Mary had a real special investment there, didn't she?
Yes.
And now he's a friend of the family. Interesting, huh? When he heard, therefore, that he was sick, he abode 2 days, still in the same place where he was. Then after that, says he to his disciples, now let us go into Judea again. His disciples said to him, Master, the Jews of late sought to stone thee, and goest thou hither again? Have you lost your mind? They don't like you there. Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in the day? If any man walk in the day, he stumbles not, because he sees the light of this world. And a man walk in the night, he stumbleth, because there is no light in him. Actually, I think I'm getting through this faster than I thought I was going to. We may actually be done a little early. Matthew. When the centurion and they that were with him, watching Jesus, saw the earthquake and those things that were done, they feared greatly, saying, truly, this was the Son of God. And many women were there beholding afar off, which followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering unto him, among which was Mary Magdalene, and Mary, the mother of James, and Joses, and the mother of Zebedee's children. So what place, what right would the woman have in this little vignette? Not much, right? The men were the one back then. I'm not saying I defend this, but the men were basically the ones running things, right? So it says they're far off. They were unfortunately pushed to the back of the bus, right? They didn't get to come forward and do anything. They just had to sit there and watch and mourn, because this is the crucifixion. So they're there and they're waiting. When the even was come, there came a rich man of Arimathea named Joseph, who also himself was Jesus' disciple. He went to Pilate and begged the body of Jesus. Then Pilate commanded the body to be delivered. And when Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn out in the rock. And he rolled a great stone to the door of the sepulchre and departed. And there was Mary and the other Mary sitting over against the rock. Well, we know why one Mary was there. It's her dead son. What could be worse? Of course she's mourning. She's ripped apart. She watched him be tortured
Yeah.
and then executed in the worst possible fashion because only criminals, non-Roman criminals, were done like that. And now he's in a hole. Now, he did tell her, 3 days I'm going to rise, but where's your proof? Wouldn't any of us probably still had doubt as well? To us, that's pretty final most of the time.
Most.
So he warned them, yeah, I'm going to rebuild the temple in 3 days, but if they had believed it that much, wouldn't they all have been there hanging around? They went back to fishing, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Right? It didn't take very long either. I mean, he was only there 3 days. Right? In our calendar, it was Friday night till Sunday. And, they didn't even wait around to see what was going to come next. As soon as the body's cold, so to speak, they're out the door and back in the fishing boats. I'm like, wow, thanks, guys. Ride or die. You really stuck up for me here, didn't you? Gee.
Was that road till he died?
And in the 28th chapter, Matthew says this, in the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week. So what do we remember about Jewish days, right? 6 a.m. is the beginning of a day, right? Not midnight like ours. So people argue that, and they say, well, Friday you're saying that he was killed, and you're telling me that I need to believe that on Sunday he came back to life. It's not 3 days. Something's wrong with your calendar, or something's wrong with your story. Well, no, not really. I never said it was 3 complete, entire 24-hour periods. Their day starts at 6 a.m. And it says so right here, in a way, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week. Hey, 6 a.m., sun's coming up, right? Comes who? Mary Magdalene again, and the other Mary, back to see the tomb again, back to the sepulchre. And behold, there was a great earthquake. The angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat upon it. His countenance was like lightning, and his raiment white as snow. And for fear of him the keepers did shake and became as dead men. And the angel answered and said unto the women, Fear not ye, for I know that you seek Jesus, which was crucified. Where's the disciples?
Hiding.
There wasn't one? The women are doing the job now. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with that, but what they would look at, that wasn't how things went, right? Here's the women taking care of business, the men are where? Nowhere to be found. Said to the women, Fear not ye, for I know that ye seek Jesus which was crucified. He is not here, for he is risen. And he said, Come, see the place where the Lord lay. Go quickly and tell his disciples. He is risen from the dead, and behold, he goeth before you into Galilee. There shall ye see him. Lo, I have told you. So nobody else was here to get a load of all of this. Now they have a job to do, doing what the other guys were supposed to be doing. They should have been right there to hear that message, shouldn't they?
Yes.
Right.
In a perfect world, right? All 12. Well, okay, all 11. Yeah, one guy was... Yeah, so we'll count him out. Okay, so the other 11 should have been there to hear this instead of getting secondhand news. They didn't have to flip on MSNBC or Fox or CNN to find out he's back from the dead. There you shall see him in Galilee, I have told you. And they departed quickly from the sepulchre with fear and great joy, and did run to bring his disciples word. And as they went to tell his disciples, behold, Jesus met them, saying, All hail. And they came and held him by the feet and worshipped him. Mark's version of the same event, a little different. And when the Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome had bought sweet spices that they might come and anoint him. All right, so he was already dead. And he's already buried. What are they doing? Well, when they came to see Lazarus, didn't they say, yeah, dude, he's been in the ground for like 4 days. He's going to be real ripe. They're expecting that there's going to be some smell here. But they're coming to do their proper respects. Right? They spent money on this stuff. This wasn't, they didn't just go down and just pick it up from nowhere. Some guy just said, yeah, here, it looks like you need this, take this. They put effort into this job. Had bought sweet spices, they might come and anoint him. And very early in the morning, the first day of the week, they came to the sepulchre at the rising of the sun. Okay, so that pretty much matches with the other one. Said as the day was dawning, right? And they said among themselves, who shall roll us away the stone from the door of the sepulchre? So we see what they're planning. They don't have a John Deere, right? They don't have a Caterpillar diesel to pull this thing out of the way. It was heavy. It was very heavy. They made sure of that for a couple reasons. The Romans didn't want any trouble. So remember they had guards posted there, right? Well, they made sure that this was a big rock. Because they didn't want any of this nonsense. Oh, the guys come back to life, and the apostles run and steal the body and then play this game. That's what they were thinking was going to happen. Because they didn't understand what he was saying.
Not only that, they sealed the stone as well.
Right. Probably with hot wax.
It was like mortar then.
So they're trying to figure out how they're going to get this thing out of the way, without a Caterpillar diesel. It says, who shall roll it away? And when they looked, they saw the stone was rolled away. For it was very great. Big puppy, very heavy. And entering into the sepulchre, they saw a young man sitting on the right side, clothed in a long white garment. And they were afraid. Affrighted. He said to them, be not affrighted. You seek Jesus of Nazareth, which was crucified. He is risen. He is not here. Behold the place where they laid him. But go your way, tell his disciples and Peter that he goeth before you into Galilee. There shall ye see him, as he said unto you. And they went out quickly and fled from the sepulchre, for they trembled and were amazed. Neither said they anything to any man, for they were afraid. But yet they were told that they had a job. Right? They were supposed to go find the disciples, round them up. And 16 and 9. So now when Jesus was risen early, the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom he had cast 7 devils. And she went and told them that had been with him as they mourned and wept. And they, when they heard that he was alive and had been seen of her, believed not.
I can hear them now.
So after all that, they're all pulling the Thomas routine. Right? Remember the Thomas routine?
Doubting Thomas.
Doubting Thomas. Okay, so you're telling me we followed this guy for 3.5 years. He raised the dead, healed the sick, fixed blind people, all this stuff. He couldn't get away from the Romans because he didn't understand that part, right? Couldn't get away from the Romans. They killed him. And I'm supposed to believe that he's back from the dead. Really? Didn't he say, yet if I don't see the hole in his arm, and let me put my hand, his whole hand, right, into this big spear hole in his side, which sounds kind of gross to me, honestly. I'm not going to believe that anything other than him still being in a hole, rotting away like everybody else does after they die, especially in the desert where it's going to come quick. Lots of heat. After that, he appeared in another form unto 2 of them as they walked and went into the country. And they went and told it to the residue. Neither believed they them. Okay, so let's see. The list is getting longer here, isn't it? Mary's crazy. Mary Magdalene's crazy. Salome's crazy. 2 of the disciples are nuts. Because they're all giving the same story, and they're going, that's impossible. Dead people don't come back to life. And he's like, did you forget Lazarus already? Afterward he appeared unto the 11 as they sat at meat, and upbraided them for their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they believed not them which had seen him after he was risen. So the 5, if you count it in total, or it may have been more, at least we know there was specifically these 5. And here all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, great. So finally he has to show up for all of the 11 to bother believing. Why was that so difficult? And he said unto them, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved. He that believeth not shall be damned. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name shall they cast out devils. They shall speak with new tongues. They shall take up serpents. And if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. So finally he gets around to really laying it out, right? After all of this. So if we go all the way back to the beginning of my lesson, where we were talking about the sacrifice and the false gods and all of that, and he was saying, well, you've committed adultery. Well, yeah, the one woman directly had, but look at Mary's story after that. Now, Peter messed up, right?
Yeah.
He denied him 3 times. Said, I have no idea who you're talking about. Tried to sneak out the back door, so to speak, right? Because he was unfortunately in the vicinity at the time when he got arrested. And the woman's like, wait, I know you. No, I'm sure you don't. So, no, I definitely know you. No, your accent gives you away. You know, we'd be like, I don't know. Sounds like Boston or South Carolina. You know, there'd be something different there. You know? And he's like, oh, no, absolutely not me. Curses and swears. But manages to recover from that. And gives a speech on the day of Pentecost. Okay, good recovery. And we know that he went on to do a lot of good things.
Yeah.
He preached the word, he traveled a lot, and he paid the price. He was martyred, as were the other 9. The only one that didn't, well, they tried and failed, was John. John was the only one who died of old age of natural causes. If I remember the chronology, somewhere around 100 was the estimation, if the stories and timelines were lined up correctly. I don't believe that the stories are factually incorrect, because that would mean the Bible lies. Timelines can get a little iffy, but that doesn't change the fact of the fact.
Right.
The truth is still the truth. But look at her turnaround. And she's got nothing on the Richard Gere thing going on here, you know. This is a pretty woman, right? He turns from prostitute to princess here, right?
I know.
Well, look what she ended up doing. She was a bad woman. Nobody wanted her around. But yet she, in getting past that misdirection and confusion about career choices, ended up what? Being the first one to know that he was going to be killed. The other ones are like, well, what are you doing, stupid? You're taking all this money, you're wasting this fancy box that you had, a pound of spikenard. Why? She said, well, how can I pay back what he's done for me? And he says, leave her alone. She's doing it for my burial. And they're like, well, yeah, everybody dies sooner or later. They had no realization it was going to be that soon.
Right.
It wasn't even a year. It was weeks, maybe months. So she did that, turned that whole thing around.
So you can be forgiven.
Definitely can be forgiven.
Yes, sir.
So that, I believe, is the crux of all of that information from those Old Testament prophets when he was saying about that, when he wasn't talking, as I said, directly about a physical action, physical activity, but that their, what would you say, their minds went whoring. How about we go with that? Right? He said, you've turned away from me and done all of these other terrible things, including murder, tossing your children into a fire. Turn back to me, and you can be restored. Just like Mary was. Now, that didn't erase all the men that she had been with. That was a fact as a fact. She sold her body.
But she was forgiven.
But he said, don't continue with this career choice.
Right.
Anybody else here still going to throw rocks at you? She said, no, Lord. She said, well, neither do I. Go and sin no more. So, I guess the main point of my message, the line in the sand, is that regardless of whatever we might have done, we can still turn that around.
Amen.
Yes.
It can still be fixed.
Yes. That's right.
So, when not God, but that other chattering idiot who likes to, in everybody's ear constantly telling you you're worthless and you've messed up far too many times, and you've committed, oh, well, that's the unforgivable sin. No. You could have been a thief, but no. You were a drug dealer and a murderer. You're done. You're going to burn in hell. There's no coming back for you on that one. That's a lie.
Right.
You were a whore. You can't come back from that. Nope, that's a lie too.
Thank you, Jesus. Yes, Lord.
None of those
Yes.
are the end of the story.
That's right.
So the crux of my point is that really we've all been harlots.
Yes. Yes.
Come on.
Yes.
Maybe not in body, although
In body.
I liked women when I was young. I still like them now, but in a different way. At least I'm married. But I probably don't have a scorecard that looks like his. He probably ran out of belts to keep carving notches into. It probably just looked like one of those little fold-up dolls. You know how you do with the scissors and you pull it out and it all looks like this. But that's not the point. It's not keeping score.
Thank you, Jesus.
If I had one woman that I wasn't married to, or I had 100, I was still doing something wrong.
That's right.
It was still fornication.
Yes. Sin. Sin is sin.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
Fun, yes. I might have notches on my bedpost, but thankfully he doesn't do that. He's like, you're either on my bad side or you're on my good side, but you can be forgiven.
Yeah.
I can come back with the wood putty and I can fill in all those notches on your bedpost
Yes.
Thank you, Lord.
and say, okay,
Thank you.
don't do it again, we're good.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that was the
Thank you.
crucial center thought here for this lesson, is that whatever whoring we may have done, it can be undone.
Amen.
Yes.
We still have forgiveness. We still have that chance.
Amen.
Well, Moses was a killer. He killed.
Good point. Good point.
Killed an Egyptian.
Deacon just said that Moses was an actual murderer.
He was.
Yeah. Yeah. One of his countrymen was getting whooped on. He went over, came up behind the Egyptian, laid into him.
The Egyptian.
That was done. Buried him in the sand. Doesn't it say that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And he thought that nobody saw it. He's like, oh, I'm good. I got away with it. And then, a day or two later, the other guy comes up and says, oh, you're going to kill me like you just did to poor old Dave over there? I saw you bury him. Oh, the thing is known. Well, sometimes we think that our bodies are buried, or skeletons are in the closet. Somebody's got a key for the closet door.
Somebody always sees.
Somebody opened the closet door and the skeleton spilled out on the floor. Whoops. It's okay, we can be forgiven for that too.
That's right.
Thank you.
So, if I have a key thought to go with my title, that's it. We can always be forgiven.
Thank you, Lord. Okay.